I was so afraid to be honest with you and everybody else in my life. But when we built that healthy place, it was like, oh my gosh, like everything again started to open up and heal.
Welcome to Startup Spouses, where we help entrepreneurial couples take their relationship from mediocre to mind-blowing. I'm Marie, an intimacy coach.
I'm Adam. I'm a business coach.
So today we're talking about being open and honest.
Can I be honest with you?
Oh no. It's you start that off like that's interesting. Like I feel like there's breaks going on in my head when you're like, "Can I be honest with you?" I'm like, "Wait, were you not honest with me before?"
Right,
or
the disclaimer.
What?
Yeah, right. Well, I think this is an important concept for a lot of couples. I mean, including us coming up because, we have, I feel, tell me if this is true or not. We have these good intentions about being open and honest with our partner, our life partner. But over time, there's things that kind of creep in where there's elements of safety that we don't feel like maybe we can be honest about some of the real deep stuff that is within us. So, I mean, I don't know. How does that hit you? What is open and honest really? How does that hit you in a relationship? And maybe give it from the perspective of you when we first got married, and then
In the past, I would probably go, yeah, we're very open and honest. Like we share everything. Like we would tell each other everything. Like there's no problem. Like, yeah, I tell him everything. So that I think that is what but when you get down to it, especially about intimacy, there's stuff that we hide from ourselves. We don't think it's okay. I mean, it depends on what society says. Is like we can't have that desire, so sharing it would be twice as scary. So
yeah. Well, and you touch on something kind of important there. It's like, yeah, we try to be open and honest. Maybe we think we even are, but there are certain things that we don't even know. We don't know. And there was this concept or this model that blew my mind that we learned about a number of years ago called Johari's window. And I want to talk a little bit about that if I can, because it was kind of telling into how we can learn more about each other and ourselves in this area of trust. And I think when we're talking about openness and honesty, whether it's in a relationship, I mean, especially if it's in a relationship, like a life partnership, but also if it's in a business with your leadership team or the people that you're working with, you want a high level of trust, which also requires a high level of safety. That's why that's our first principle in the Spark framework, safety. You have to establish that foundation of safety, and that requires trust. And how is trust built? Well, it's built through openness and honesty. But there's this aspect that you can't just go right into it. And so Johari's window basically has this 4-quadrant model. So if you think of a big square that's broken into 4 quadrants, right? 2 quadrants on top, 2 quadrants on bottom. And
like 4 square.
Yeah, 4 squares. Thank you. You make things much easier for me. And so in the top square, top left square, these are things that the first, basically the column that you have, is that right? Column. Yeah, column. I always get columns and rows confused. So the first column is about what you know about yourself, right? So those first 2 quadrants on the left-hand column, what you know about yourself. And on the right side, the right column, those 2 squares on the right column, are what you don't know about yourself.
Yeah.
So those are the columns. Now the rows, the top row is what others know about you, right? And then the bottom row is what others don't know about you.
Yeah.
So if you picture how those 4 quadrant line up, the upper left quadrant is what you know about yourself and what others know about you. So take this into your relationship. This is everything you and I know about each other. In your work, this is what you and your team know about each other. So everything you're willing to be open about and everything everybody knows about you. It's just the open side of yourself.
Yes.
That's what you're open about. Now, that lower left quadrant is what others don't know about you, but what you know about yourself. So these could be a variety of things depending on the nature of why, what you want to share there. This could be things that you don't want to share, that is none of anybody's business, but it's part of who you are, right? I mean, you may have specific desires or interests, like, from a sexuality standpoint, that you don't want to share with your work friends, or right?
Exactly.
Or with anybody else. It doesn't matter to them. What we share with each other from that standpoint doesn't matter to anybody else. That's the hidden side. That's what you hide from others. And some of that can be healthy. Some of it may be unhealthy. And when you're with your spouse, you may be hiding things that are unhealthy, but you might be hiding things that you may be afraid to share because the safety isn't there. But that's that hidden side. So that's the lower left quadrant. The upper right quadrant is what you don't know about yourself, but what others know about you, right? And so can you think of examples for that one?
That is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like performance wise, like I feel like I'm not doing a good job at what I'm doing, but other people are like, no, you are doing a good job. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's interesting, and that's a good. I think that's a good example of that, because we tend to get in our own heads. We have this like we're in the jar perspective. We can't read the label from outside of the jar, so we often think we're maybe doing something differently than what others see, and so they may see that we are just awesome at whatever this is that we're doing. We might not see that in ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's an example of what others know, but we don't know. I mean, it could also be the opposite of that, where it's like, I don't know how to, maybe I'm as a speaker, and I'm doing it now, I stammer a lot, and maybe I don't even notice it when I'm speaking, but maybe I'm stammering and blah blah blah, and I'm saying a lot or whatever like that, and others just hear it.
Yes.
But if they're not willing to share it with me, how do I improve, right?
Yes.
So that's an example
That's a good example.
Yeah. Well, I think both are true though, because it could be something good. It could be something we need to improve upon.
Yeah.
And again, that's where the trust comes into play, because we don't want to just like go out and be like I'm going to dump feedback on you and just like make you feel really bad about everything you're doing. But that's what others see, what we don't. Those are what we call our blind spots. So that upper right quadrant is our blind spots, right? Yeah. And then that leaves the lower right quadrant, which is what we don't know about ourselves and what others don't know about us.
Yes.
This one's important because that is completely unknown. How are we supposed to find that out?
It's a good question. Maybe it has to do with trying new things. Is basically like, even when you're trying new foods, I don't know if I like. I don't even know like what food I have not tried, but
right.
So it would be trying something different that you want to try, or not, like you don't even know it's out there.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
So, but somebody's like, "Oh, you got to try." I don't know. Let's say try AI when it came out. It's like, you should try AI. Like, well, what is that?
Right.
And that sort of stuff. That's an example I can give you. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think those are good examples. I think of it like, I think the example of like a new restaurant, like you were saying, is a good example, as you don't know, maybe you don't know you like Thai food. Maybe you just have this perception of just like not even knowing it exists until you try things.
Yes.
And here's why that's important, because this is where the concept of openness and honesty come in. Because openness, I believe, is really about what you as a person, or how you're willing to receive, how you're willing to receive, which is really hearing that feedback or hearing things from another person being honest with you. It's your openness that helps you to receive it.
Yes.
Right. And so when you're open to receiving it, what happens is they're sharing that feedback honestly, and that's expanding your left-hand column, that upper left column, into the upper right column.
Yeah.
So you're actually learning more about your blind spots. You're learning more. So that's expanding into that realm, right? And then by being honest, like honest is about what you give.
Yes.
So openness is about what you receive, how you receive it. Honesty is about how you give it, like how you share it. So it has to be done with sharing. This is how you're expanding that quadrant from what you know in the upper left into what others don't know. It's vulnerability. It's being honest, and so you're actually expanding that. And here's the great thing about the Johari's window model is that when you expand those two quadrants, when you're open and honest, you're learning more about yourself that you didn't know. And others are learning about themselves that they didn't know because of open and honesty, because of that joint willingness to learn and grow. What you're doing there is not only exposing your blind spots and not only sharing what's hidden with vulnerability, you're also growing into that unknown territory, and you're learning more there as well, which is exposing things you would have never known before. Mm-hmm. And so I bring this concept into the idea of how we discovered more, how we connected more intimately. Do you remember when we came together a few years ago, started talking more about sex and intimacy?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember when we first started doing those yes, no, maybe lists where we were sharing, trying to be open and honest about each other, what our desires were, what we really wanted, right?
Yes, it actually, we had to look up a lot of the stuff.
We didn't know. We had no clue.
I had no clue on some of the stuff on the list. That means you have to go out and get it. So because then you can discover what type of, what attracts your attention and your desires. So that's a good opportunity for that. But yeah, it's like that unknown and discovering that unknown is quite, I don't know. I wouldn't say everything was sunshine and roses. It was a challenge.
Yeah.
It was I don't know how that hits me right now.
It's revealing though. Mm-hmm. I mean, but it's revealing. And it's so true but when we did that, I remember our first answers to those. Some things at least from my perspective, is I wasn't quite ready and willing to share some of the things that were on my yeses or maybes, right? But because we started talking and sharing some of them, those answers where we were answering 20% yes, it gradually went up to 50% yes, and we learned things about our sexuality and our intimacy that we would have never known about ourselves. Mm-mm. And that's the great thing about it is the more you're willing to be open and honest and you have that safety to do so, the more is revealed about what you never knew, and things just expand. Your world expands. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to start trying absolutely everything in the book, but it does mean that things but it does open your world up to more opportunity when you're willing to be open and honest, because you discover more of those unknowns. That was a powerful realization for me and us when we saw that model for the first time.
Yeah, it was a great way of exploration to seeing what we liked and what we don't like as well, too. Yeah. So it was a great opportunity to do that through open and honesty. And I know for myself, I can tell you right now that I was not that open. Mm-hmm. That it was criticism. When you
received it as criticism.
Yes, yes, and it was oh my gosh, I should know this. Especially in my 20s, I felt that I needed to know everything, and the fact that I didn't know it, that it was very shameful for me. And so you telling me what to do was oh no, I'm such a bad person. So I really took it to heart. It took me a while to just sit with it and be able to for you to be honest with me and me to be open. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the challenging parts with open and honesty, because to be fair, it's it's a learning experience to do this. It's a learning experience to be open and honest. So
it is, and I think you're right. And I feel for that reason, it's not just something you can just listen to a podcast and say all of a sudden, "Oh, I get it. We have to be open and honest. All right, here we go. I'm going to dump on you all of the honesty that I can, and you're just going to receive it openly, and by that proxy, just like dump everything on me, and like all at once, everything changes because you can't just create that psychological and emotional safety out of thin air. It has to be built. It has to be created. You have to work at that consistently. And that's where I think a weekly meeting, a weekly rhythm at least of connecting and practicing that and starting to expose those things using different types of tools. Like Esther Perel has the series of cards, right, that are like conversation starters that start to help people to become more vulnerable with their partners. And vice versa. And so you learn more. And if you can start to hear what people are sharing without that criticism, without shame, and kind of celebrate what people are sharing relative to their to what they're talking about, well, then again, it opens up and it starts to expand that trust. And if you've ever seen Patrick Lencioni's trust pyramid, trust is the foundation for anything. And I know I'm bringing business into this, but if you have that foundation of trust in any relationship, ultimately it goes up. You start developing more accountability, and and then you ultimately get to the top of the pyramid where you're delivering results. And the result in this case in your relationship is a more aligned, connected experience where you get to experience more of what you both want to experience and get that 10 out of 10 relationship. Yeah. And by that fact, take it in your business and you get to build that there. So that openness and honesty, I think, in that Johari's window model also plays well into the business world, but it starts the foundation of trust. And did you find that over time with that consistency, I mean, because you said that we didn't necessarily feel that safety of being honest and open. And I can relate to that. I don't think we did either. So what in your mind was that shift that helped to strengthen that trust over time?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the fact that in a way you weren't reacting to what I was being honest about. Mm-hmm. I think that also I was like reminding myself to take deep breaths and that it's not a personal attack. Yeah. I think a lot of it had to do with therapy for myself, because I had one of those experiences where it was very difficult for me to take, because I almost thought it was criticism.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I think it brought me to tears a lot of the time too. And it had nothing to do with what you were saying. It had everything to do with my perception of who I am, because I was not either doing something the right way, or for the sheer fact, like, I didn't know. Yeah. So, for me, therapy was like, okay, it's not criticism. And it just was a lot of practice. And little by little, we were starting to open up and share too.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And that's a great point. I mean, regarding the therapy, if it's coaching and therapy are really, really great to get that outside perspective, to make sure that you are, that you are seeing the blind spots that you need to, and kind of engaging in all this stuff. So I don't want, again, this podcast to replace therapy if it's something you need, but it is important to be self-aware of a lot of that. Is like, why is it hitting you? I love the idea that you talked about breathing, because that goes into your line of work, which is about building on that, like that embodiment, like breathing in, relaxing into it, yes, understanding how it's hitting you. Mm-hmm. Because how people might be being honest with you is not necessarily a reflection or a criticism of you. It's not defining you in that moment. But what it is it's going to hit you, and you have to kind of understand why it's hitting you in a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So if it's interesting that you brought that up, because when it starts hitting you in your body, there are certain signals that go off, mm-hmm. like according to where you can feel it. So it will tell you exactly what is hitting it, for like what kind of trauma is behind that mm-hmm. thought.
Yeah.
What was the history behind it? Because it's kind of like your body will tell you, like will start sending signals off before your mind will too, because it understands it a lot better and quicker. So
your body stores the trauma.
yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Interesting.
Yes.
And so if you're feeling something in a certain spot, like it in my chest,
Yeah.
that's like kind of like the previous, like, oh, it was there, and understanding that, and is that, well, I'm hearing that correctly?
Well, it also helps to understand where like in your chest, if you can feel it in your chest, then you can also release that sort of like sort of stuff that's coming at you. So you can just easily sit with it
Right.
for a second, because actually what is like thoughts or feelings are like 90 actually only last about 90 seconds. Feelings only last about 90 seconds. So if you could sit there for 90 seconds just with it and release it, then your mind won't keep telling a story that over and over and over again. Like,
Right.
oh yeah, I'm feeling anxious and I'm stressed out. Of course I'm stressed, because it goes instantly up to your head and you're thinking about it and you're telling a story around it too. So if you could sit with it for a second, breathe into it for 90 seconds and understand that it's going to let go, then you will be better off in that case too. So it's always good to be back in your body and to realize that it's not a scary place.
Yeah. That's very true. I think from that standpoint, I like that when you're being open, we're almost defining like what it means to be open is understand, like, know your body, right? So feel where it's hitting you in your body. Learn to understand that, and then I feel like curiosity is a part of that too. Like about openness is like if something is hitting you, maybe being curious about that and what can come from it. Is that right?
Yeah, you said curious instead of judgmental.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
right.
when you picture being open, what do you picture?
Well, when I picture being open, it's almost like coming from the chest for me. Like every time I say that, it's about being open. And so when I think about that, that's your heart opening up.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're closed, which is the opposite, well, then your heart's closed, and it's just basically ego kind of controlling, your emotions and your feelings. So you're not willing to be open, or you're not willing to open up. And of course, again, the foundation of trust and health is important here as you grow in this. But I feel like if you have that trust and that foundation to have your heart opened, you're willing to kind of receive that more effectively. That's how I see it. I see openness, and there's, when I'm thinking about openness and honesty in general, I think of 4 different ways that can show up. Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, the goal, the target, is that both parties can be open and honest. Right.
Of course.
And that's healthy. If that open heart, like that openness, is grounded in a willingness to be curious, to go into your body and to learn and to grow. And that honesty is shared in a loving, kind way. Not nice. Remember, nice is like fake, is artificial harmony. Kind is in real consideration for the environment, the setting, the timing, all of the elements that go into feedback or information that will help your partner or whomever you're talking to grow. Not just to change because you want them to change.
Yes.
That's not honesty, right? This is about kindness and again, that foundation of trust. But when you have that openness and honesty, well, that's a healthy relationship when both of those things are healthy. I mean, that's the foundation of a healthy relationship. Now, conversely, if you look at a relationship that has zero openness and honesty, like you have neither openness or honesty, that's completely dysfunctional. It's unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's nothing, there's no safety in that. There's no trust in that because nobody's willing to be open and honest. And that's obviously a danger zone. But then you have the other 2 kind of ways that shows up, which is there's a person that is not open, but they're honest. We call that person a dick.
There's
There's other words for
it's
it.
like, oh, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Exactly.
It's like, are you like, but you're saying it in a not kind way, or
Right.
did we have to divulge that right at this minute? So
Yeah, they're not considering timing or anything like that. But if you want to be politer about it instead of calling it a dick, it's being a bully.
yeah,
Because
that's true.
because they're basically willing to railroad you and tell you and like shit all over you or tell you everything about that, but they're not willing to be open. They're not their hearts aren't open. We've always all had those people where it's like, okay, you're going to give me feedback or you're going to be honest with me or you're just going to share honestly, but the second anybody says something to you, you're defensive, you take it personally, you close off, you get angry, all this kind of stuff, right? And that's just it's being a bully.
Yeah,
And then the final one is when you're willing to be open but not honest.
yeah,
And this is really kind of the pushover, the person that is kind of there's a bit of fearfulness in there that might be motivated by early trauma of dealing with someone who is a bully, right, or something like that. But you have people that if somebody's giving you feedback and you're just like, well, yeah, you're right, yeah, I hear you, and you're just completely open. You want to please everybody. You're a people pleaser, but you're not willing to give that feedback either. And you think that's being kind because you're trying to please the other person, but in reality, there's no kindness in it because that other person's blind spots are still blind spots. And there's either some level of lack of safety in there or something unhealthy that needs to be dealt with. But those are really the four ways that shows up.
yeah. I think the last two are kind of in relationship with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Because-
It sounds like, yeah.
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 Because I think that's back and forth. It's kind of like, oh, this person is going to be a bully to me, and I can't say anything back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because in my life that showed up a lot. I grew up as a people pleaser, and I think one of the ways that showed up is when I was in my previous career, there were a lot of people, a lot of egos in the room that were just closed off that would not hear any feedback. And so in order to maintain that harmony or that artificial harmony, I would have to avoid the conflict by not giving feedback and just trying to like take everybody's, criticism and everything in and try to fix it. And so I was that type that was very open but not honest. And it weighed heavily on me. It built into me this massive amount of resentment over like just not being able to like get my needs met, but having to meet everybody else's needs.
Yeah.
And in that process, it was just super draining and super like just really just ignited my nervous system insanely because I was trying to maintain all that harmony. But when we started working on this, when we started working in on the business and actually started getting honest and started doing that, man, I realized how important that was. Like when we started doing that, I was so afraid to be honest with you and everybody else in my life. But when we built that healthy place, it was like, oh my gosh, like everything again started to open up and heal. And it wasn't just because I was like dumping everything on you and saying like, oh, I'm just being honest and all that. No, it was because both existed, openness and honesty. They have to exist in the same way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Am I right in saying that it was probably one of the most important things that we've done in a relationship was to continue to strengthen that openness and honesty with each other?
Yeah, because that was the spark to growth.
Yeah.
Because if you, as you were talking about, being open, you lean more into your blind spot. And then if you're more honest, you lean more into being, what is it?
When you're leaning to honesty?
Yeah, when you're leaning into honesty, you're leaning more into...
I think you're being, if you're doing it the right way, for me at least, it's being caring.
Yeah.
It's being considerate of the other person and where their blind spots might be. And again, it's foundationally in trust. But I mean, let's look at it from the perspective of really stupid, simple example. If you have something in your teeth, do you want me to tell you something's in your teeth?
Of course.
Yes, yeah. not everybody knows that, right? There needs to be a foundation of trust for me to come up to you and say something's in your teeth.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just like seeing some random person on the subway or at the park with something in their teeth, I don't know that person well enough to like be able to say, "Hey, you've got something in your teeth."
Yeah.
I mean, some people do. Maybe you do or whatever. But I think that is like an important part of that honesty. Is like you are looking out for the greater good, for the good of the person. And when and I think that's another element of it. When you've clearly defined the greater good, that's helpful too. When you know what your core values are as a team or as a partner, in a relationship or or you've identified like where you want to go longer term, or somebody set out their values and they look to you as like a partner where you can like bounce things off of each other, then that feedback that you give to expose blind spots helps that other person to get out of their own way, that honesty, so that they can pursue that a lot better if they're open. And again, it requires that openness.
Yes.
Which requires a lot of healing, and it's not easy, but it's important.
I hear this a lot. It's like I hear a lot of people trying to be open with their significant other, and them feeling like it's the person's closed off. How do you feel that you best supported me into being more open? How do you feel like that?
I think, if I'm understanding the question correctly, when you were feeling more closed off,
yes,
how did I approach that to help you to navigate that?
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of, for me at least, the way that I approached it, and I have not been 100% the best at that all the time,
No.
But what I've tried to do is give you grace to start understanding that yourself. So grace is one. The second one is always lead with love and the greater good in mind.
Yeah.
In other words, am I doing this for me or for you? Exactly. And truly am I doing it for you? Not in that stupid sense of like, I'm just trying to help, but really I'm trying to help myself. It's like, no, like really is it for you, and being honest. And then really getting curious. So grace, greater good, curiosity of like asking you the questions. Hey, this is kind of setting the stage. And I think this is kind of it's about creating the right type of setting, and timing, with this honesty. It's about, we built a container around this sacred meeting every week that we have. And that immediately, or at least over time, created this environment where we knew that open and honesty was going to be in place. So we were basically crafting this container every week where our mindset would be set to receiving feedback and giving feedback. So already we created that space for it. That was the safe, sacred space.
Yeah.
And then in that space, it was the questions I would ask, like, hey, what kind of feedback would you be looking for right now if that issue came up?
Yeah.
There's also, because there's a point where you don't want to just like offer unsolicited honesty about something that isn't relevant at the time.
No.
Like I can't come into like one of our connection settings and say, hey, you're doing this all week, and or just, it's a gripe session,
Yeah. Right?
But if there's something that you are bringing up, and I think this is a way to practice it, because when you open up and that openness is an invitation
Yeah.
to honesty, that's usually where it starts. That's what helps. So I like to say, if there's an opening with the other person being open, that gives the invitation. And then like a vampire, you can't just like barge in and just like give it, right. You have to also then ask permission once you see that opening. Like the door opens, then you can ask permission. Hey, are you open to feedback on this? Or are you looking, how can I help? Or how can I support you on this? Do you want me to listen, or do you want some feedback? Mm-hmm. The more that you can do that, and then the more caring you give that feedback, the more that creates that foundation of trust and honesty in there, instead of just dumping honesty. I feel like, and maybe I'm open to being corrected on this, I feel like it starts with openness. And for those that are wanting to give a little more honesty. I think you just have to look for those openings a little bit where somebody's being a little opening and they're pushing the boundary on what they're willing to share on vulnerability.
Yeah.
Then that leads into the opportunity to ask and get curious and then lean into like
Yes.
that honesty. So I would start with openness. Yeah.
Well, you also do something very well, because I like the way that, are you open to some feedback on this?
Mm-hmm.
And I always begrudgingly, all the time begrudgingly, yes.
I can literally see your heart opening in those moments because it is like, just, yes.
Hey, that's
good.
me practicing.
That's good.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good.
no, I know, but it also requires me a lot of work to do after what you
Right.
say.
Right.
So I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do any work. I just want to complain about this and just like leave it at the door and just not fix it. But
Yeah.
what you do best is like, we support each other, we help each other, we lift each other up. And so I will always be, unless I'm really down in the dumps, be like, yes, I'm open to feedback. But there's another way that you do this, and it's the compliment sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Yes,
this
you
one.
do that. And you do it in one of your meetings as well too. So it's really awesome for you to see you do that, and just like me practice that too, because I'm really bad at that one. I'll just be like, Adam, blah blah blah, and like, no, I need to start with something nice and complimentary, but we also, in that, it's like, there's also that need for affirmation too.
Yes. That's a
Because
great point.
sometimes we do get on, we do tell each other what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, or what, like, when we're kind of like, we're kind of upset,
Yeah.
and we're complaining. I know it. And when I do that, there's a part of me that just starts picking on myself, and we're like, no, you can't do that too.
Right. Right.
You're like, no, that's you. There's a fine line. Like, no, you can't do that. So.
Yeah. 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 And that's true too. I mean, I think that requires a certain level of trust and knowing, like, and understanding of each other, where we understand each other enough where it's like, if you start griping and you're starting to like beat the crap out of yourself, I'm like, no, I'm not going to. That's a boundary that I have. So I mean, boundaries are important. A boundary I have is somebody I love beating the crap out of themselves for, like, where it's not constructive. It's like, you can have a pity party, but don't beat yourself up. It's kind of like that's the boundary, because there's nothing constructive that will really come from it. So yeah, I think that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the part of that, if like we're doing this open and honesty stuff. Sometimes it sounds like kind of a criticism, and then it's kind of like, it's okay to ask for affirmations as well.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
it's just saying, it's okay to be like, you know what, I'm really trying to work on that part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I also need to know what else you think I'm doing okay, because I need to
Yes.
hear both if I'm going to move forward. Because if it's always something, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you something that you're doing wrong, then it's, if you're always doing that, you don't hear good things. If you don't hear good things, it's like, why am I going to move forward and be more open with this person too?
That's a great point. Yeah, and the affirmation, I think that's really important. It's like it's like aftercare. I mean, you need to be able to have that, and a lot of that reward system, like, psychologically, comes best when it's in the moment of like of after having those conversations and saying, hey, this is great, and here's some affirmation when it's requested. But it's also very important that it happens randomly. Like, like if I can come up to you and, like, in the midst of this, it's just like, say, hey, just want to let you know you're doing a really great job on this specifically, and being specific on it, not just like, hey, you're doing a great job, but like, hey, I witnessed this, and I think that's one of the things we do in our weekly meeting that we've started implementing is this idea of core values shout outs, which is like we have a set of core values within, within our life, within our relationship. And every week we look at our values and we say, hey, where you really did well with this idea of continuous growth. I mean, it was like you just leaned into this really difficult thing, blah, 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 whatever. And that's super helpful in giving that affirmation every week too, and leaning into it, but also getting in the habit of random kind of things like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so with that, if you want in intimacy of how that shows up, like the open and honesty shows up in intimacy, it's quite a challenge. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have that thought that they can't be open and honest with their partner.
Yeah. I think I feel like that's true, especially how our society kind of, puts a lot of shame around certain desires, fantasies, or even the idea of being intimate is kind of, the behind closed doors kind of a thing. And I think there's just a lack of understanding around like the idea of intimacy. So, yeah. So with that, like deeply embedded kind of difficulty or challenge or trauma with a lot of people, how do we overcome that?
That is a really great question. And it's kind of like, again, a good example is with the yes, no, maybe lists to start off with as well. But having those conversations outside the bedroom is a good way to start.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
And just like if you say like you were wanted to introduce like a toy during sex too, and it's like, would you be open to that? And how your thoughts, like, would you be open to the idea of me bringing a toy into our bedroom activities?
Yeah.
And then being able to listen to the person when you ask that question, and not started to attack them too. Maybe they have concerns or maybe they have thoughts around it of what that means, and I'm being replaced. This is like, I can't satisfy you by myself. Those sort of thoughts come up too, and just having a conversation around it and being like, I'm going to ask this. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And ask, would you be open? And that kind of opens the doors, like, you can have your thoughts around it too, and your feelings around it, and be non-judgmental about your thoughts and your feelings around it too.
Right.
And getting curious on both ends. If we both lean into that curiosity, then it's better to get to a place where we can agree on what is good for a relationship too.
Yeah. I think that's a great point too, and a great example. And a lot of times I think when you have that level of honesty where that honesty comes with vulnerability. And I think this is where it's a little bit different than like, hey, I'm just giving you feedback on what you need to do. Because it's like, there's no vulnerability in that necessarily, aside from the fact that like, but if there's like if there's something that you're expressing honestly about a desire that you want that involves somebody else, well, now you are like putting yourself in a position of being vulnerable, so that you also have to bring with that honesty the sense of openness. Because now you have to open yourself up to the curiosity, the questions, the feedback, and you're opening yourself up to that.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the dynamic of back and forth of like where openness and honesty is going to help you to grow, because now you're putting that issue in front of you instead of between you, so that it's not like the toy is like not is not the thing that's going to damage somebody's ego. It's going to be get curious about like, hey, how does that look? What does that look like? How can we do that? It's just not shut down immediately, but you're putting yourself in a vulnerable state there to get that feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. These are really sensitive topics, and people have thoughts and judgments around it too.
Right.
And so it's really, it can be kind of scary at first and very uncomfortable to have these conversations
Yeah.
of your desires and what you feel like would be best in the bedroom, because maybe I would like to switch it up, or do a certain way, and would you be open to that? And understanding that it might not be received well the first time,
Right. Yeah.
and giving them that space to think about that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we grow up with all these cultural expectations and what we should be doing and what we should not be doing, and there's a lot of shame behind it, and sometimes it will expose your partner's shame too.
Yeah.
And having it might be good to listen to this together, because it would be like, oh, stuff is coming up for me, and oh my gosh, why am I having such a reaction to that? I'm a bad person. Instead of just like slow down and take a deep breath and be like, it's okay. I'm having feelings around it, and the person who's being open reacts in a loving and caring way. Of course, there's boundaries if the person's attacking you.
Right.
Do not keep going with that conversation.
Right.
But if you could sit with the frustration and the thought process, and like being gentle with the other person, and have them like feel that crack of the opening, because if it hasn't been discussed in the past, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. I remember our conversations at first were very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But we both knew that that's okay to be uncomfortable. And I'm telling everybody else out there, it's okay to be uncomfortable in this,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something to walk away with here is lead into that discomfort in a healthy way. And I think as we close this episode out, the action items that I think that would be great for you in your relationship is if this is something that is really, really a difficulty for you, obviously look into therapy or some kind of coaching that can help that. And of course, we have that available too. Marie is a coach on that and everything. If it's deeper, more healing work, through therapy, that's also an important option. But if I think we would suggest here getting into that weekly rhythm, because it takes a consistent effort. Consistently practicing this is going to be important. So weekly rhythm in that is important. And we'll talk about that kind of weekly rhythm that we have to start these conversations in a moment. But when you're in that weekly rhythm, our suggestion, I think, would be to start with openness. Start with being open to sharing something vulnerably. Start being vulnerable. Use some of those conversations cards where you can start to share specific aspects of yourself that your partner may not know about you. And that will open up, give your partner more information about who you are and give them the opportunity to become more curious. And then over time, on your time, when it's ready, when it's healthy, when it feels like the trust is being built, letting in that honesty about sharing that feedback on how you can expand the blind spots. And then just watch how you start to uncover things that you didn't know about each other and yourself. So that you can go there. And then the final thing I'll say is know thyself first. Before trying to fix the other, before trying to be something for the other, try to discover yourself first. Be open to yourself. Self-discovery. Understand your operating system. Because when you show up more authentically as who you are, understanding yourself, your wants, your needs, your desires, you're going to show up better as a partner to your spouse, as a leader in your business, and you're going to have the capacity to be more open and honest. That's just the fact. Anything to add to that?
Yeah. And if you have any questions regarding this, because I know it might be having those difficult conversations, and if you have specific questions, just feel free to reach out to us, and then we can help you on that way as well too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want to download our free guide, free connection, weekly connection rhythm workbook, it's available for free. You can download it. It should be in the show notes by now. Yes, awesome. So we got it ready, and it's ready for download. So go check that out and get into the rhythm of meeting with your spouse, having those conversations, and building the trust that is the foundation of openness and honesty that is going to make your relationship something that is truly great by proxy the rest of your business and the rest of your life. So if you like this episode, share it with a friend, and make sure to do all the things like it, subscribe to it, and give us a rating on Apple and all of the good stuff. So we appreciate you joining us today and look forward to catching you next time.